We sit down for an exclusive interview with Chief Justice David Maraga, who has invited us to his home here in Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, you're a man who only a few days ago spoke about the budgetary cuts that have been made to the judiciary. You asked for 31.2 billion shillings. You have been allocated 14.5 billion shillings. So how is that going to affect service delivery for the common Mwananchi?
First and foremost, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to explain a few things that the country needs to know. The budget which has been allocated to us is grossly inadequate. We don't know what to do with, for example, we've been given 50 million shillings for development. This includes repairs, it includes all other expenses, including ICT, surprisingly. What do you do with that? We're talking about an arm of government which is spread all over the country, and you are allocating to us 50 million shillings. It is impossible to do anything. In fact, we don't even know where to start with it. So that is the kind of challenge we are having. I have in my office letters from MPs asking for establishment of courts in various places. I have a letter from the MP for Ruiru, for example. And when we look at the statistics, I asked my people to look at the statistics. When they brought the statistics, that MP is justified to ask for a court in Ruiru. That MP is justified to ask for a high court station at Thika. We don't have premises. We don't have premises. We are now supposed to recruit about nine high court judges. Court of appeal judges to fill the vacancies that are there. We were sitting last week with the Judicial Service Commission and they're saying, look, we need to do this because there's a lot of pressure. The president of the Court of Appeal is saying he can't cope. Now, when you think about that, you want to recruit those judges. You don't even have office space for them to sit. So those are the kind of challenges we are facing. So we can't recruit because we don't have office space.
You said that you have letters in your office from MPs asking for court stations in their respective constituencies. Yes. So do you view this budgetary cuts as politically motivated? And I ask that because after the annulment of the presidential election on August 8th, at the August 8th presidential election of 2017, there were some MPs who said we shall revisit, including none other than the deputy president himself.
Na tunataka Maraga atusikie vizuri. Kwa sababu he has had his day, ours is coming.
I'm not quite sure about that. But you know, the drastic cut in the budget, in the budget allocation is shocking. In fact, for us in the judiciary, is shocking. We've been getting at least 2.5 billion shillings for development. Now we are getting 50 million. Yeah? And we are seeing. I saw that in the media in June, when we had given all the details and they had gone for consideration, and I saw it in the media saying, look, we are going to cut the judiciary budget by 2.5 million. Me, I thought they were joking, yeah? And when I saw it now, it has come. Then you realize this is interesting. Parliament has got to understand or tell the Kenyans whether or not they regard the judiciary services as important. Because all over the world, the judiciary is given at least about 2.5% of the national budget. We are not asking that we be given that all the time. It all depends on the economy. But when you are talking about development and you are saying, look, we don't have money, we want to do this, development has got to be proportional. Development has to be proportional. And we are not asking for anything out of the world. We are just talking about, if the budget is whatever trillion shillings there, we're just asking, look, the recommended global percentage is 2.5. Give us even 1.5 to start with, and we will move on. So the judiciary has to be funded if it has to offer services to the country. One of the major points in the independence of the judiciary is financial autonomy. And the drafters of the Constitution realized that. That's why they put it in Article 173 of the Constitution, that the judiciary should have a judiciary fund. So that once the Parliament allocates the funds, those funds are put in the in that fund, and we are able to plan and work out. I saw recently some MPs saying, look, the judiciary is given money it is unable to absorb. We give requests to the treasury for treasury releases. 1 month down the line, that has not been honored. And then you are told that you are not absorbing. How can you absorb when they are not paying? We have certificates and we make requests for treasury releases, and it takes a long time before that is released. Then by the time it is released, you are only able to pay a few of the payments that have been outstanding, and the time has run out, so the fund goes back.
Okay, you've mentioned a judiciary fund.
Yes.
And you've mentioned that in other countries, judiciaries get at least 2.5% of the country's budget. So the model, what you're talking about, how would that differ from the process that we have undergone until now? Why
that is important is that after the budgetary allocations, the entire allocation of the judiciary budget should be deposited in that account, in that fund. That one is controlled by the judiciary. It's not controlled by treasury. So that you now plan the payments. And the fund is not, at the end of the financial year, the money is not supposed to go back to treasury. It will remain. What treasury will do is, look, you asked for so much for development. You have absorbed so much. We can only add you a little more. But, during that period, you are able to plan with contractors and all that, and be able to absorb the funds. Rather than, come the end of the year, the financial year, you have bills to pay, you have some money in the allocation, you have bills to pay, but because the year has come to the end, you have got to surrender all the funds. That disrupts the payment, and you can't be able to plan. And by the way, the absorption of government funds, the kind of period we are given that you work with is hardly 6 months. If you take it the year cycle, like now, the fund, the budget was finalized in June. The funds, by the time the funds are available for allocation, we are talking of September. September, you move here, and as I've said, there are delays in releases, and we are not able to absorb. Initially, we had challenges of absorption, but we have overcome those, and we will be able to move on.
All right, but why isn't the judiciary fund already a reality?
It requires the fund regulations. We have already drawn those. They are with the Attorney General for tabling in the Parliament, and we are requesting the Parliament, as soon as they are there, let them pass them. And we have the judiciary fund running, so that the funds are paid into the judiciary. That way, the judiciary will be able to control its funds. The judiciary will not be at the mercy of the CS treasury. You have to keep calling every day and get the payments. That is not what is meant to be there. If the funds have been allocated for the judiciary to carry out its functions, it should be given those funds. Yeah.
Could the political class be sending a message that if you don't toe a certain political line or to a certain line, then your funds would be strangled, your operations would be strangled?
In a way, yes. They have been saying that. You remember when there was a judgment against the MPs on constituency fund, yes. Development fund. You had the kind of threats they were making. Whenever we have ruled against Parliament, you have said, look, we are going to deal with these people. They have even gone as far as even naming some of the judges who have given those orders. What does that tell you? We are being told that the funds are not enough and all that. That's what I was seeing in the media yesterday. that you have only, you can only get so much because there are all other demands from other sectors. We agree, But I said, look, let the allocations be proportional.
Some comments have been made on matters to do with sharing of resources. We're all aware that we have competing priorities on many areas.
Like the World Fund, World Bank Fund we have been using, which is coming to the end at the end of this year. We are being told, look, it can't be renewed because...
And that is the Judiciary Performance Improvement.
Exactly. It can't be renewed because the country has borrowed heavily. Borrowed heavily, what have been given? That fund was only 11 point something billion shillings. And look at what we have done with it. The buildings are all over for anybody to see in the country, 29 of them, which are nearing completion. And without the renewal that we have requested for, those buildings are going to remain there as white elephants. Okay. In fact, what we thought was that Parliament should not only renew that fund, it should borrow for us a little more, so that we are able to do a bit of more infrastructure for the judiciary. That's what we were requesting for. And they are saying, look, you can't borrow. Parliament has borrowed for its construction. Look at the renovations that have been done to the what? To the Senate. Look at the MPs' offices. Come, and I want to invite the MPs. Let them come to the Supreme Court. See where the judges are seated. A judge walks almost 100 meters to go to the washroom. The buildings are those which were put up several years back. We are not being given any funds at all. So what are you talking about? In my office there, sometimes when you get visitors, you don't even have a respectable washroom to take them. It is that embarrassing. But the country needs to know this. So what we are asking is, give us reasonable funds to be able to perform the functions of where we are required to perform. Parliament has to realize that the judiciary is a critical component of the governance systems. Okay. Which investor would want to go to a country where dispute resolution mechanisms are weak, where the judiciary is not able to stand on its feet and decide matters the way they are supposed to be decided? Okay. That's what we are asking.
All right. Before you came out and you gave your press conference on, it was on Tuesday, did you try and engage the other arms of government?
We tried, but we failed. You ring, as CJ is ringing, Treasury, for example, and nobody is speaking my call. What else are you talking about? What else are you expected to do?
After, of course, the presidential petition annulment was a historic issue on the continent and talked about world over. Thereafter, the president called the Supreme Court Wakora. Thereafter, we had the deputy president and several legislators, including the Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen, saying we shall revisit. We've also had the Interior Cabinet Secretary talk about an unholy alliance between the judiciary, the civil society, and the opposition.
There is an evil clique of judicial officers working with activist lawyers and elements in the civil society who are determined to make sure that the executive branch does not function.
Maraga na watu yake hao wakora hao wamesema ati basi hiyo uchaguzi ipotee. Si ndivyo wamesema? Sasa mimi sana sio rais mtarajiwa. Mimi ni rais ambaye amekalia kiti.
What went through your mind when you heard these responses to your decision?
I looked at those responses, and when I reflected on them, I said, look, this is perhaps what you would expect, the kind of shock that, talk coming from that kind of shock. And I took it to be statements made in the, if I can call it, the spur of the moment. And I thought we were going to settle down because that's a decision which was given. We were going to settle down and move on. And actually we started and we were doing very well. I invited the president, and they graciously came to the judiciary when we had the judiciary address on the state of the judiciary address, and the president graced the occasion, and we were moving on until a few things came up with some orders of the court not being obeyed, and I said, look, obey the orders of the court. Let us, if you are unhappy with them, the process or the way to do it is to appeal, and we will deal with those. But I mean, some people were not happy with that, but that's the way it should be. If you allow a party against whom you have made an order to think that he can disobey it, then you are asking for anarchy.
Okay.
The civilized way of doing it is to have that order challenged in court, and where it is, and we have done that. We have reversed quite a number of our own judgments and corrected the situation.
But on several occasions, thereafter, I think immediately after the presidential petition, several petitions were then submitted to the JSC,
yes,
questioning the motivation for the annulments and indicating that there was political influence.
Yes.
Jubilee has on several occasions called out certain judges and said these people have acted unfairly towards us. They are compromised. Are all these people clamoring over nothing?
You know, whenever that has been brought to, has been raised, I have said, look, the government has, as a machinery. If I was taking bribes, if I was doing that, and the CIDs and the intelligence are not able to know that, then we should be worrying about the country we are living in. Give us evidence of that. Don't just make those decisions. And by the way, it is almost the same case with everybody in Kenya. When somebody loses a case, the letters I'm getting is, look, this judge has been compromised. An allegation made out of there, and you don't have any evidence of bribery. If the government is having evidence of compromise, I would be the first one to be very happy if that one is brought, and we will deal with the judges. We are all accountable. The judges are accountable. So to make allegations that the judges have been compromised to rule in favor of the opposition or to rule in favor of the government, that first of all is unfair coming from leaders, because it gives the general public the impression that when you lose in court, you have lost because somebody has been compromised, which is not the case. Okay. Which is not, and I'm not saying that there is no bribery at all in the judiciary. There could be, and there are instances where we have got some cases. I will be very happy if evidence is brought of bribery. If some of the Kenyans can stand up and say, look, this is what it is. If you have bribed somebody, give us evidence. Stand up and give us evidence, and we will deal with that. That's what happens in other countries, and that's why they are moving on.
Now, I don't know whether you've read, there's an article that was written by Reuters after they interviewed the Director of Public Prosecutions, who is a very senior person in the investigative process. Mm. And he was quoted as saying that what is impeding the war on graft is corrupt judicial officers. He later walked back those remarks. But did you engage him on that?
I engaged him.
Did it raise some concern for you?
Correct. I did engage him, and I asked him that, and he said he was misquoted. So I left it at that, and I told him, look, you are the Director of Public Prosecutions. If you have evidence, if you have evidence of compromise of any judicial officers, as I said, the Judicial Service Commission will be too happy to have that evidence, because we want to stamp out corruption from the judiciary so that we are able to serve the Kenyan people. So that when you come to court and lose, you will walk out of court and say, yes, I have lost, but I have lost fairly. And we move on. Okay. Yeah.
Now, on the question of with graft, of late, with the recent cases, we've seen much more stringent bail and bond terms where accused persons are concerned. Previously, you've been accused of granting anticipatory bail, if I could use the word willy-nilly, or just allowing perpetrators to get away, to use adjournments to keep frustrating the legal process. Have you addressed those challenges?
Na hakuna ile story ati mtu anakimbia kotini ati anaenda kusema mimi nataka kushikwa nipatie anticipatory bail. Kama wewe ni mwizi, umekubali umeiba, unakimbia kotini badala ya kwenda kufungwa ati unaenda kuomba bail usifungwe. Sasa nani atafungwa kama mkora ameenda kotini asifungwe?
In fact, it started with my predecessor. With regard to anticipatory bail orders, we were getting orders. Somebody, even before he is arrested, he goes to court and he says, look, he's being targeted for this and that, and he gets orders. And they were getting orders from all over the country. We had that outcry that, look, why are you even, and even the police were themselves complaining, why are you even stopping us from investigating cases? So my predecessor and the leadership at that time came up with the division, a division of the High Court called the Anti-Corruption Division, which was set up so that we have all those applications dealt with in one division. The problem we had with that is you get somebody going to court with a judge who has a list of about 10-15 cases. The court is packed, and in that hurry to deal with matters, sometimes judges would give orders without having scrutinized and looked at the papers carefully, and you found orders coming from all over. That's why we said let them all be dealt with by one division, and we have judges. And I was seeing even yesterday, and I was laughing. Some media houses are saying that I have said all corruption cases have to come to the High Court. Nothing of the kind. The rules, I mean, the directions I gave relate to the High Court Anti-Corruption Division. Those regulations only deal, I mean, directions, they only deal with the High Court. Those matters which come to the High Court, those matters of anticipatory bails, those matters which are going to be, because, once the government has evidence of corruption, it is required to recover the proceeds of corruption from the suspects. Those ones, most of those will come to the High Court, and we want them dealt with by that division. So let it not be misunderstood. We have already done a gazette notice. We are going to set up a sub-registry in Mombasa and another one in Kisumu, so that all those don't have to come to Nairobi. They can be dealt with there. But it is the judges of that division who will go to Kisumu and go to Mombasa and deal with those cases, simply because we want to have harmony. We don't want conflicting decisions coming from one quarter of one part of the country and others from another part of the country. So we are dealing with that, and we are on top of things.
When you were being vetted
Yes.
for this job, I covered that. And one of the things you said you would undertake to do is address the rift that there was at the time in the Supreme Court. With the presidential petition, there appeared to have been sides. How successful have you been in that endeavor?
No, that one has been sorted out. That one has been sorted out. The Supreme Court judges were working in tandem. We will not always agree on everything. There are times when my colleagues make a decision and I tell them, look, I don't share your views. And that's the way it should be. In that case, I would write a dissenting opinion, and we have several dissenting opinions, and we respect that. What we know is that as a Supreme Court, we are supposed to work as a team, and we are working as a team. We are hearing matters, we decide, once we have heard matters, we conference and decide how to decide the cases that we have had. And we have had situations where a colleague says, look, I don't agree with the majority and I'm going to write a dissenting opinion, and that's it. But what I'm saying is that we are working together and we are moving on very well without any problem.
Okay.
Yes.
You got into this job with a lot of optimism.
Yes.
About the difference you're going to make. Particularly, you raised the question of case backlog.
Yes.
Are you still optimistic, or are you now disillusioned?
I'm actually worried. Because what we had, why we didn't deal with them immediately is because of the election petitions. And you know how many they were. Very many of them across the country. And because of the timelines, we had to direct all the efforts to the election petitions and deal with them. We are in the process of finishing, other than the appeals which are coming, we have already finished the trial of those cases. And now we are embarking on backlog. The reports I have from the judicial officers across the country is that we are on course. We asked for funds. You know, there are some stations like Nairobi which have heavy backlogs. There are others which have already finished, which have already cleared the cases of 5 years and above. So what we have put in place is mechanism to have judges move from those stations, come to Nairobi and do what we call service weeks and clear that. Give me the funds and you will see. By the end of the year, we will clear all those cases. Cases 5 years and above. After that, we will be dealing with the oldest cases as much as possible so that we reduce them. Why are we talking about that? Because when you have cases lagging in court for more than 5 years, you are tying up funds. The parties get disillusioned. Some even lose interest and all that. The countries which have developed have enough judicial officers to deal with cases so that a case does not stay in the system for more than 2 years. I'll give you an example of Singapore. Singapore is a tiny island which has attracted a lot of foreign investment. Why? Because they have a wonderful dispute resolution mechanisms. The cases in Singapore, the oldest case in Singapore is about 2 years. Here in Kenya, we have cases lag for so many years, and we have discussed that with the judges. Is one of the issues we are going to discuss in Mombasa during the colloquium in August. That we have we have to have a case management system where the cases are heard as fast as possible so that we can clear. I am having a lot of outcry from the public. Members of the public write me letters and complaining, and I see that they are justified in the complaint. Cases have been lagging in court. Sometimes you find that his opponent is taking everybody in circles, and that's what we are going to deal with in the colloquium. A party who, when the case is coming to an end and is seeing like he's going to lose, he fires his lawyer. And says, look, I need time to get another lawyer, blah, blah, to move on that. We are dealing with that, and we don't want those kind of delaying tactics. Those are the ones we are going to address. Mainly what we are asking is, let the judiciary be given funds, we recruit enough judges, and you will see how we will deal with the cases and reduce the backlog.
How well have the mobile courts worked, where traffic offences in particular are concerned?
You know, the mobile phones the mobile phones we are talking about are the ones which go to outlying stations where the public travel, especially in the, what do you call this, the districts where the population is sparse, but they are expansive. That's where you go with a judge, and a magistrate goes with his court clerk and the staff. The prosecutors, they move from one part of the county, for example, to another and hear cases. Instead of wananchi traveling, especially in Isiolo district and Mandera and Wajir, instead of traveling all those hundreds of kilometers on very, very rough roads, sometimes they are unable even to get to court in good time, we go there ourselves and hear that. With regard to the traffic cases, we had some courts. In particular, you even set a court along the road and deal with cases as fast as possible. You need to mobilize and have funds so that you are able to do that. So that is also going to be affected, but not as much as the other ones which I've talked in other districts without proper infrastructure.
So as we bring this to a close, I
Yes.
know you don't want to dwell on this issue.
Yes.
But what was it like sitting on the bench with Is it a wig? You do wear a wig now?
Well, that's a ceremonial kind of
yeah.
yes.
And delivering that kind of ruling, the annulment, which came as a surprise to very many people, quite honestly, myself included. It was not expected. Were you worried, perhaps, that there could be an outbreak of violence, or it weighed heavily? It was a decision, I imagine, that would weigh heavily on you. How do you bring yourself to execute that kind of decision?
Now, look, you know, as a judge, and as a CJ for that matter, I am sworn to uphold the Constitution. I'm sworn to uphold the rule of law. You know our history. You know where we were in 2007, 2008, the skirmishes we had. A group of people said, look, we can't trust the judiciary. That's why we had skirmishes in 2007, 2008. They can't trust the judiciary to give an impartial judgment. Parliament, you know, one other thing most people are not even looking at. They are saying, look, irregularities, this is the judiciary, how can you set aside a presidential election on irregularities? Irregularities were part of that. But the major ground, we annulled the presidential petition, was transparency. The Parliament passed an act just a few months to the election and said results from polling stations have to be transmitted electronically. That was not done in the first round. Quite a number of areas they were not done. We were told of network and so forth, but that was not true, and they know it. How can you talk of no network in an area like Kisumu town? How can you talk of no network in places here in Kiambu, some in Nakuru area within town? And you don't get any explanation. When we went for the second round, we had transmission. What made the difference? IEBC didn't want to do its job properly. So the results were not transmitted as required by the law. So if we said this is all right and all that, and the people went into the streets, we would be rightly blamed. So as far as the judiciary and the Supreme Court was concerned, at least a majority of the judges, there was no transparency as required by the Elections Act, which was passed, as I said, a few months to the election. So that's a problem. And unless you are going to have transparency in the election petitions, we are going to have wrangles in this country forever. Is that what Kenyans want? Is that what Kenyans want? I know I have been condemned, I have been done this, but in my heart, I know what I did was what I was required to do. You saw the kind of petitions which were filed against me. Some were saying, look, you have done this because you were colluding with opposition. You were doing this without any basis at all. When those petitions came before the Judicial Service Commission, they found no basis at all and they dismissed them, so that we can move on, and we are moving on. There are others which had come. At the time ours were dismissed, the responses were not filed and all that. And as soon as the the Judicial Service Commission is fully constituted, we will deal with those. If we find they were frivolous, they will be dismissed and we move on. So I don't think I would be serving this country well if I'm going to work under fear. Because then I'm not worthy sitting on the seat I've been given by this country. I should stand up and say, look, this is not being done correctly. Let us change it. Instead of condemning Maraga, let us ask ourselves, are we doing the right thing? Is this good for our country? Is this good for posterity? Do you want us to have a situation where after every election, you are having skirmishes of people running up and down? We can't have development. We can't have development. So let the judiciary do its bit. Let the judiciary do its bit and do it courageously, correctly. If you bring petitions which are frivolous, we will dismiss them. It is our duty to dismiss frivolous petitions so that the MPs who have been elected, they don't have the Damocles what? There's a sword of Damocles hanging over their heads. They can be able to plan and move on. But if they have not been properly elected, the court should say so that the people can get their representative and move on. That's the way I understand it, and that's the way I think we should move. Yeah, and I think if we can go that way, let everybody respect the law. This country is a wonderful country. This is a wonderful country. We will go to great strides and move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
We end this interview on that optimistic note. Thank you very much for giving us the time, and we hope to engage you further in the future.
Thank you very much.
And all the best.
Thank you.